I would like to thank you all for coming to celebrate the launch of Lady X. Heidi and I are very, very grateful. Heidi asked me a long time ago, would I be willing to write a chapter in a book of self-love? And she explained that it was fictional, and I said, oh, I'm not sure about that. But when she explained a bit deeper that I would be able to talk about self-love and healing, and the aim of the book was so that all ladies and young girls around the world would have like a self-help book that they could use wherever they are in any part of the world and at any time. And our aim is that people use it, you know, as their self-help guide. And we've given lots of homework. Every chapter is homework, and we've written it at the back. And the buzz that has happened since we launched this book, as all of you know, it's now we're #1 Amazon bestseller in France, Italy, India, UK. So we're very, very lucky to have that. And also, it's been translated into French,
Italian, and Spanish,
and Czech.
yes.
So, you know,
Will this be translated in French, Spanish, and Czech, and Italian?
yeah. So we're very blessed. And, you know, the book has evolved. So to answer some people's questions from earlier, the organizer was Mirav, who is the best-selling author of 4 of her own books, and she is passionate about helping women. She works a lot with helping women through self-defense and also standing in their own power. And because she knows I like helping women, it's my mission to help women any way I can. After Heidi mentioned it to me, I had another call with Mirav, and she was like, yeah, that's it, we're on board. And for all of us, we know we had a special journey because we had lockdown straight away, and a few of the authors, you know, because we all had to pay for the contribution to our lovely editor and the publicist and the graphic designer, and the list goes on. So we all paid money to be part of this project. And a few of them then couldn't afford it, etc. And then we were going to write 2 chapters, and then we had to write extended chapters, and every time we went to launch the book, it was getting extended. So for those of you who follow me on Facebook, I apologize for a month of posts because it should have been launched a lot quicker after I took a picture of me in that sexy black dress.
Yes.
And then it was like, whoops, Amazon can't do it now, or this can't be published now, or that can't be published. But anyway, voila.
She had a mind of her own, this Lady X. She did. She kind of determined where she wanted to go, actually, because the story would have been very different if all the authors had stayed in the project.
Yeah.
And I think the end result is what it was supposed to be, actually, what it was meant to be, because it all came together really nicely in the end. But throughout the project, yes, it was really very exciting, and especially for me as well, because I would get chapters and I would be like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen at all. And my job was to make sure it continues, it flows together. I've got 6 different, 5.
Yeah.
I wrote in the book in the end, but I wasn't supposed to write in it. So yeah, there was some interesting twists that, they got cut in the end, and I'm actually really grateful they did, because some of it just didn't really work entirely, and we ended up with a story that really works.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, and people will relate to it.
Yeah.
Which was the
So
idea.
just to let you all know, we all used to meet once a week at 9:30 at night because people were living in different countries. We were all from 6 different countries. So France, Monaco, Czechoslovakia.
Australia, the US, and Italy.
Yeah. So trying to find a time that suited us all. So, you know, that was meeting at 9:30.
Lots of wine was drunk.
We're hoping for another end of wine here.
And when we received the chapter, because Brian knows I'm a bit of a perfectionist and a control freak, and I like to study and prepare a long time in advance, and this couldn't happen, which I didn't know when I signed up for it. And so you'd get a chapter, and it was like, you read it today, and you've got a week to write yours. And when Heidi talked about the other chapters, oh my Lord, I think I landed the worst chapter ever to follow through from.
Initially.
Yes. Yeah, because the person who wrote it, she had said that Lady X had met her husband in hospital when her mum was dying from breast cancer. And then she went on to say that the husband turned out to be an alcoholic, and he was really brutal. He used to beat her up and mentally abuse her as well. And then on top of that, her mother hated her. She was invisible, you know. She liked the older sister, and Lady X, you know, was like she didn't exist in her presence. And she had fallen in love with this guy, Victor. Victor, because he was so super nice, she was freaking out because all her love affairs were with real, not nice people that used to abuse her whichever way. And she was then like, oh my God, wanting to sabotage the relationship because it was like, this can't be true, can't be happening to me, why is this man so nice, you know. And then he started getting really jealous and possessive and really wanted to like take control of her, watching her every move. And then to top it all, she decided, oh, I feel claustrophobic, she was choking. She wanted to go on her own journey of self-discovery, self-love, do all this healing, because she found out as well that her uncle sexually abused her as a child. So she was really freaked out because the mother said nothing, the father said nothing, and the sister said nothing. So, and then just on the last few sentences, a big whammy was dropped. She found out she was pregnant while she was trying to run away from this man.
All this in one chapter.
Yeah, and I was like, what? Are you for real? I was like deep breathing. Brian was like, what's wrong? I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this chapter. And luckily, you know, from my psychiatric nurse background, it was like, you know, taking a deep breath. And maybe I don't need to deal with all those things. I'm going to take her somewhere fun. I'm going to take her to Nice so we can have a lot of fun and just put Lady X decides to take a week of me time. So it was like writing, you know, a short paragraph about how she tells him, you know, she's leaving, but I did put a really juicy thing. I made out that he came round with a bunch of flowers because this is how he used to seduce her, and they had the wildest sex. And I wrote about the wildest sex. And then they
And then it got cut.
Maybe it was too wild.
Yeah, we should produce a little book like the cut scene. Because that was a good one.
Yeah.
Actually.
It was when I told the girls like, and then I did a big dramatic scene at the airport, you know, because when she just found out she was pregnant, she just had this wild sex, and then at the airport, you know, she's thinking, oh my God, but no, she still has to go away. He goes, have you got your passport, sweetie? Because in the car he was sort of sulking because she was going. He was hoping after he seduced her she would stay. And she opens her bag, and then you can see the positive pregnancy test on top. So he goes absolutely wild, you know, because he's seen it. Is that where I think it is? And there's no way. So he starts like screaming and shouting and calling her all the sluts under the sun, and how could he trap her, and why did he do this? You told me you didn't want children, and blah blah blah. And then the lady at the check-in was very empathetic, and she called the security guards, who whisked him away and took her, you know, much to his dismay, quickly pushed her in behind the counter, and then she comes to her knees and relax. And
that is still in the book.
yes. So that's still in the book. And I also took her to visit Lady, Mary Magdalene's cave.
Angel.
Yeah, and Angel's given me a message. So we're on the right track. So, and since that book, so many people have contacted me. Suzanne was at one of the first, I did it organically here on a Reiki night. I did a Mary Magdalene message, or it was on Zoom. And so many people messaged me, wow, so powerful. I'm actually getting messages from Lady St. Mary. I've got Lady, I've only had a sip of champagne. Lady X, Mary Magdalene. And, you know, I went on, and part of the gift, because we recorded, each of us did a special recording from the chapters, and at the end we had a special shaman.
Yes, there is an audio version of the book, and then at the end there are recorded meditations. We have a recorded behind the scenes of all the authors, where we talk about how it was to work on the book, etc. And it's about 7 hours actually of recordings of different things. Yeah. So it's pretty cool, and each author reads their own chapter, and the last chapter is read by Sarah News, who is the modern day shaman. Actually.
She's very well known on social media.
And she also wrote the foreword of the book.
Yeah.
Alright, so
yeah,
shall we
get on to it? Do you want to start?
I can do. So we've just picked small scenes from several chapters, so you just have a little bit of a feel of you know, what the story is about. Okay. Gosh.
There's no light.
No, it's okay actually. Alright. And she was angry. She looked up into the mirror again, into her eyes. Her eyes were blazing with rage, with fire. The defeated look from before had disappeared. Standing up, she moved from leg to leg, like a boxer. Her right hand clenched into a fist, as if it had its own force, rising up towards the mirror, ready to punch. When a strange power inside of her took the place of the pity and helplessness she felt a second away. She didn't know where that power was coming from, nor did she care. Her body was leading her, and her mind followed. Her clenched fist went towards the mirror, while looking at herself in her eyes, ready to throw that punch, ready to go. Her fist almost touched the mirror when her index finger loosened from her fist and pointed at the mirror, poking it, pressing it, pointing at herself. Never again do I allow you to get into these situations. You hear me? Never again will anyone treat you this way. Never again will you treat yourself this way. Never again. She could hear her own voice as the finger was pointing at her from the mirror, and the raccoon face disappeared. Only appeared a pair of fierce, determined eyes remained. Never again, she shouted, repeating the words, claiming them, claiming her new power, deciding to leave the guilt, the shame, the pain, all that has happened in the past as she turned away from the mirror and ran to the cupboard where she kept her books. She grabbed a notebook from her drawer. It had an orange-red cover and felt like the fire she saw in her eyes and felt now in her bones, like the first sunrise in a very long time, maybe ever. Opening it on the first page, she took her best pen and wrote in it in the most beautiful letters she could. I hereby promise to myself, I will never again let anyone treat me in a way which makes me feel anything less than good, especially not myself.
Wow.
This is after a very bad experience.
Yes.
In my first chapter. Oh yes. Victor. That last bit.
So she'd had a very traumatic experience, but
And then she went to travel. She went to Israel, where she thought, I'm not going to give everything away, but she kind of moves to different countries. And the next scene is after she had a stint as an au pair, because those chapters are written by a parenting coach. And there's some really lovely advice in there, how to connect as a parent with your children. And this is the end of her chapters.
Victor was wearing a white linen shirt, beige pants, and a pair of sunglasses in his wavy hair. The smell his cologne made her want him even more. She hadn't been with a man for a long time, and Victor seemed to be a perfect gentleman. She didn't want him to know how attractive she was to him, so she decided to play it cool at the beginning. She had agreed to work as a waitress in his restaurant for a few months, although that was nothing like her plans. Waiting tables wasn't an ideal job. She hated cleaning after messy family lunches or bachelor parties, but it gave her a chance to be around Victor every day. She could feel his look, his presence, and she enjoyed each second together. It was obvious there was something between them. He was so different from all the other guys she was attracted to. He was delicate and smart. He could be terribly bossy, but loving at the same time. She loved watching him greeting the celebrities coming to his restaurant for dinner. He had a very close relationship with many of them. He remembered their names, even their kids' names. He used these details to break the ice when he saw them hesitating in front of the restaurant. He was always present like a host, restaurant owner, dear friend, and charismatic businessman. Women of all ages were dancing around him and chit-chatting, hoping they would become the one for him. One evening, she was the last one left, cleaning the patio when Victor came close to her. I want you, he whispered. I want you. What? She turned around, looking at Victor very closely. You asked me what I wanted the very first day out on the meadow. I want you, he said firmly. Her self-control was gone. She wanted him so badly. She wanted him to rip off her dress and take her as widely as she dreamt about it since the first day she saw him. Victor didn't wait for another signal, and with his strong arm around her waist, he kissed her passionately.
Ooh, lovely.
Did we say there was a little bit of romance? A bit of lust?
Yes, a little bit of everything. All right.
What happens next?
So Victor and Lady X, and she kind of really wants it to work, so she decides that she wants to really work on herself, because she has this history of sabotaging her relationships, and she really doesn't want to do that this time. So she actually tries many different things throughout the book, but she also sees a shaman, and her name is Nada. And I don't want to give too much away, but all right, so it's a very short but powerful scene. I was very, when I read it, I was really moved by it because it's something that we're all incapable of doing. I mean, I can't do it. Beverley probably can, but I can't. So, she walked back into her bathroom with Nada's portrait and placed it on the bench, then stripped herself naked. She battled with herself as she looked at the imperfections in the mirror. She felt the energy in the room change. She could smell something beautiful. Was it frankincense? She knew in her heart that Nada was with her, and she smiled. She stood in silence, took one long, deep breath, and started again. I love you. No, you don't. I love you. Bullshit. She hears Nada's beautiful, old, husky voice. Don't give up. I didn't. I love you. I fucking love you. I do, she screamed, tears streaming down her face. It's a very short scene, but I think many women struggle to just love themselves the way they are.
Yeah, that's
And it's very difficult to stand in front of a mirror and say, yeah.
That's me.
I think
do.
men
It's
also.
good language, it's real language, isn't it? It's really.
It's a very, you know,
You can connect
it's
with it,
very real. It's really written. I mean, all of these women, they really wrote from their heart. You know, they were
Maybe they were
very-
thinking of Don Draper. You know-
Of?
You know who Don Draper is?
From Mad Men, of course.
From Mad Men.
Yes.
He's
The original Madison Avenue.
He's the most alluring man you could possibly think of.
Subconsciously.
Yeah, well, maybe the other authors know this man, that might have influenced the journey of Radiohead.
Yeah. I've never watched Mad Men, actually. I
Yeah,
watched
but
one
you're missing
episode.
a lot.
I just
It's very highbrow. If you can't cope with that being highbrow, then don't watch it.
I rarely watch any TV at all, so
No,
that's
it's not
my
TV.
excuse.
It's a series.
It's a series.
Yeah, well, a series or
A series,
anything.
you could get it on
Well,
It's
maybe
your
she was
Mary
embracing
Magdalene.
her inner Don Draper alpha spirit.
Maybe, yes.
And maybe all of us would do well, men and women,
Yeah.
to
do that.
empower ourselves with that.
Yeah.
Because he has a healthy dose of self-love, I watch all the TV.
Okay. All right.
I'm
So
watching it again for the second time.
I'm learning, I trust.
Pardon?
I'm learning, I trust.
J'ai pas compris.
Okay, continuing, to be continued that chat and discussion.
yes.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I took Mary Magdalene,
You took Lady X
I
to
took
Mary
Lady-
Magdalene.
X to Nice and then on to Saint-Bon to visit Mary Magdalene's cave, the one that looks like a real vagina, which I believe is her true dwelling. When you see it, it's unbelievable. You know, it took my breath away. I couldn't, you know, anyway. It was extremely well hidden behind a massive boulder. They saw a small sign written in green and a tiny statue of Mary Magdalene tucked away in a small nook. When they turned around, they both gasped in awe. What they saw looked like a vagina. They were transfixed. They moved closer to the entrance, calmly absorbing the beautiful, soft energy, and looked at the natural carvings and colours on the rock on either side. They peeked inside the dark entrance. It had a very steep slope and difficult to make out how far down it went, as everything was pitch black. Rose seemed a little nervous and suggested her to go first, and she would watch out for her. They were both using their phones as torches, so unfortunately not much light. Even though she felt a little apprehensive and her mind was racing with thoughts of bats hanging off the ceiling and rats scurrying around, she went down as she was determined to go inside now they had found the cave. It was not as she expected. It was very difficult to see all the formations. The ground was muddy and slippery. She tried to take photos, however they didn't come out well. She felt very cold, and it was as if things were moving around her. She was not frightened, just fascinated. She was relaxed and knew she was safe. Ro kept calling out to her to make sure she was safe. Her torch kept dropping out, and she felt it was time to leave. Rose suggested that they meditate at the entrance before she went down. She started talking to Mary Magdalene in her mind. She thanked her for all her wonderful work she did and continues to do so. She felt like she was praising her for a long time. The words were flowing, and then she asked Mary Magdalene to help her to have the courage and strength to make the best decision for her soul's journey right now, and let her know her life's purpose and why she had chosen to be born right now. After about 10 minutes, they both felt a difference in the air temperature. As she opened her eyes, she saw a beautiful apparition, and Rose saw it at the same time. They must have been there for 2 hours transfixed. Then they saw her moving her arm up and realized they were seeing the same movements. She did take some photos and captured an outline. It was truly magical and too difficult for her to put into words. Her whole body was enveloped and engulfed in divine love. Her heart was bursting with love, joy, compassion, and empathy. It was deliciously exquisite. She now knew her divine soul's purpose. She was ecstatic. They sat for a long time, reflecting silently on this miracle before floating back to the hostelry and in their own individual bubble of euphoria. As she pushed open the door, her phone started buzzing in her backpack. Caller unknown. "Hello," she said. "Hey sis, it's me." For a moment, she felt her bubble would burst, but she hung on to it and smiled into the phone. She was ready.
So she travels back to her sister, who still lives in the home that they grew up in, and this is also the home where she was abused as a child. So this has been kept in book. The reason her sister called was that she found an envelope for her from their mom addressed to her, so she was going back to see what this envelope was about. I'm just going to read it very shortly. She popped up a pillow and sat down. She opened the envelope and a small note fell out. "Please forgive me, darling. Mom." That's it. That's all she had to say. She felt anger boiling up inside her. How could she be so selfish? She'd known and hadn't done anything about it. She closed her eyes and started the breathing technique she'd learned in yoga. Come on, calm down. Breathe in, breathe out. She loved her mom, but now she knew for sure that she had known, and she didn't know how she felt about that. She went back through her journals and looked for the part she'd written after seeing Nada. By the time she finished, she knew what she had to do. She had to see George. She just had to face him, or she would never give this a place. It would always haunt her. That's it. Okay. last bit that Beverley is going to read is a speech that Lady X gives in the last chapter addressing women in a center for abused women. Okay? So it is like that.
So she was very nervous about making this speech, just giving you a bit more information. And in her mind, she was repeating Michael's affirmation, "You can do it." Feeling the breath calming her immensely, she looked towards Nick and thanked him for his wonderful introduction and said she felt humbled. She took another breath and could feel herself regaining her confidence as she said, "Good evening, ladies. There's nothing like being put in the hot seat to face your fears. I listened to Jerry Seinfeld, the American comedian and actor recently, who said, according to most studies, people's number one fear is for public speaking. Number two is death. Death is number two. Does that sound right? This means to the average person, if you go to a funeral, you'd be better off in the casket than doing the eulogy. She heard the woman giggle and relax further. I was secretly dying inside today when Nick asked me to speak tonight. To be honest right now, I feel very vulnerable. However, I'm okay with that. And I know that I have a powerful message to share with you all. Just over a year ago, I hit rock bottom. I hated myself and who I'd become. I often beat myself up with my self-destructive behavior because deep down, I felt that I was unworthy. At that time, I didn't realize that I'd been carrying the burden of my buried secret, sexual and emotional abuse as I was a child, which had been causing this and blocking me from living the life I truly deserve and desire. I wore different masks with different people. At work, I was a super high achiever, and many colleagues were envious of me. They thought I was aloof and unapproachable. Little did they know how envious I was of them. I would overhear them talk about their healthy, happy relationships with their partners, families, and friends. I always felt separate and alone. At night, I would go to bars alone and pick up strangers for one-night stands, when deep down I was crying out for intimacy, love, and connection. One night I picked up Mr. Wrong, who abused me. However, I should be grateful, as he was a catalyst for my self-healing journey. Recently, I had an aha moment and realized my mission is to empower women in any way that I'm able. Did you know that happiness is a choice? We can choose happiness. Misery is also a choice. And being a victim, it is no good sitting back and watching the paint dry, expecting something different to happen. You have to take that first step. Changes naturally happen in life, however, mainly for survival. You can stop now and make changes that will help you to shine and thrive and live the life you truly deserve and desire. Be the leader you were born to be. I have learned that the best things in life are free. Walk in nature. Sit and be with nature. Pour your heart out to nature. learn from nature. Breathe and become one with nature. Meditation, meditate and connect with your soul. Find out what makes your heart and soul sing. Surround yourself with positive, influential people. Listen to empowering talks. Join empowering ladies groups. When women support each other and collaborate with each other, magic happens. Educate yourself. I've changed my life around, and I know if I can do it, each and every one of you can do it. Nobody else can do it for you. Take control of your thoughts and emotions. Make that decision. No matter how bad you think things are going for you right now, decide to take that first step. You may forget everything I say. However, I would like to end by doing a collective breath, and fingers crossed, you will remember how this will make you feel. So, please close your eyes. Place your hands on your heart. Take in a long, slow, deep breath and send this love to your heart, where your soul lives. Breathe in love. Breathe out love. And just sit with that for a few moments. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Lovely.
coming. Thank you for listening.
And if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer, whether it's now or throughout the rest of the evening.
Yes, because we have to get back to Monaco. I still have a Zoom meeting as well today. But we're doing another event in Monaco as well,
Yes.
after holidays. Probably, no, 12th, not probably, 12th of November.
Yeah.
So we will do another
Sign
little
in.
soiree.
We're actually
something.
at my ladies' lunch.
Yes, we have the ladies' lunch
And-
on the same day, and then it will flow into after work cocktail Sunday.
Yeah. So for
So-
ladies' lunch, I'm talking about transformational writing for healing and the benefits, because I've taught it for several years. The theme throughout the book is journaling, and journaling is so powerful, the written word. And as most of you know, I've learned so many different healing technologies over the years, but I can honestly say from my heart, journaling is by far the most powerful. It's something that you can do alone, and if anything stirs up for you and you can't deal with it, then you can approach someone like myself or numerous other professionals, or whichever you feel drawn
But
to.
writing is very powerful. Even if you start your day in the morning just writing down what you want out of your day, you really open your mind to the things that you're looking for. It's a very interesting technique. It really does work. I've tried it many times, and when I start the day with stating what I really want out of the day, I really get that. And so it's really powerful, and it just helps you process many
Is it
things.
for the body or the soul?
I would say it's for the soul, personally.
Yes. But if your soul's good, then you've got more energy in your body, and you'll be more inclined to do lots of other things as well. And we've got a little Lady X journal coming. It didn't really arrive today, unfortunately. It's a little journal full of inspirational quotes. And,
So you can write down.
So just write down.
Yeah, and it's good to keep a dream journal. I keep a travel journal. Marie's a witness to that every day. I was writing in my journal. We went sailing for a month around Corsica. I had to start my meditation at 9 and 6 o'clock, and in between